Welcome to our webinar, Back to School. We decided to put on this webinar so that parents are familiar with a few kind of tips and tricks to get ready for back to school. It's a busy time of year, and we want to make sure that you feel prepared as parents to help your child get ready for the new school year. So my name is Sherry Jonah, and I'm the Manager of Inclusive Education with the New Brunswick Association for Community Living. Again, as I mentioned, please feel free to ask questions. You can do so during the webinar, or if you wanted to email me afterwards, you can do that as well. My email will be at the end of the webinar. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about who we are at the New Brunswick Association for Community Living. So I'll refer to us as NBACL because New Brunswick Association for Community Living can be quite cumbersome at times. So we're a nonprofit organization, and we work on behalf of children and adults with an intellectual disability and their families. And we do this to ensure that they have the right to live, learn, work, and participate in community as valued and contributing members. One interesting thing is that we were founded in 1957 by parents whose children were not legally allowed in an education in our public school system. So that's where our roots began, and now we work on different initiatives that really touch people's lives throughout every aspect of their life. Last year we celebrated our 60th anniversary, so since that time we've come quite a long way. So I wanted to talk about what inclusive education is and what our program does briefly before we get started for back to school, so you kind of know what to expect with our education system here in New Brunswick. So our NBACL Inclusive Education Program works with parents, educators, districts, and department staff to ensure that children with an intellectual disability are successfully included in schools across New Brunswick. So our role is to work with anyone who is working with the student themselves to ensure that they have the support that they need within the school system. So in New Brunswick, we have an inclusive public education system. So sometimes it's confusing on what does inclusive education mean, and there's lots of misconceptions. So I wanted to touch base about what that is before we get started. So inclusive education is about looking at ways our schools, classrooms, programs, and lessons are designed so that students can participate and learn. Inclusion is also about finding different ways of teaching so that classrooms actively involve students. So sometimes we hear that inclusive education is a one-size-fits-all model, and it really is not. It really is about personalization and finding the right tools that work for each individual student. So here are some key features of inclusive education. So this is what we are striving for in New Brunswick. It doesn't mean that all of these we're 100% there, but this is what we're working towards. And it's the work that our coordinator, Suzanne Walsh, and myself, we work to do our best to ensure that these are happening across the province. So our first feature is accepting unconditionally all students into regular classes and the life of the school. Providing as much support to students, teachers, and classrooms as necessary to ensure that all students can participate in their school and classes. Looking at all students and focusing on what they can do rather than what they cannot do. And we're going to touch base on how you can help as a parent in the preparation for back to school on that point there. Teachers and parents have high expectations for all students. Developing education goals according to each child's ability. This means that students do not need to have the same educational goals in order to learn together and achieve outcomes in regular classes. So this would be a key point if a student is on a PLP, a personalized learning plan, that the goals may be slightly different, but it doesn't mean that they need to be learning in a separate environment or removed from the classroom to do those outcomes. Designing schools and classes in ways that help students learn and achieve to their fullest potential. Having strong leadership for inclusion from school principals, other administrators, and teachers. So what we have found is that leadership for inclusive education is really key. Having educators have knowledge about different ways of teaching so that students with various abilities and strengths can learn together. One method that is used nowadays is called universal design for learning. So we don't typically see lecture style teaching anymore, even at the high school level. It's much more diverse, it's more interactive, there's different learning opportunities to engage all students. Having principals, educators, parents, and others work together to determine the most effective way of providing a quality education in an inclusive environment. So it really is a team approach. It's not, it doesn't usually work quite as well when we have one person deciding everything. When we have a team approach, it works really well. All right, so getting ready for school. School begins 1 week from today. So some students are on a gradual entry, depending on if they're in kindergarten or grade 9 or in high school. So if your child's entering for the first time or moving to a new school, there are a number of things that you can do to prepare for a successful transition. So transition is all about change. At every stage in one's life, there's a transition. Let's look at what we can do to make these transitions happen smoothly. So preparing for the beginning of the school year, it comes with a mixture of excitement, nervousness, and anxiety for both children and parents. I often ask parents how they're feeling about the beginning of the school year, and a lot of them do say that they are a little bit nervous or they're a little bit stressed about their child going to, whether it's a new school or just a different grade. The unknown can be a little bit scary. So being prepared for school can alleviate some of the nervousness and anxiety. So during the remainder of the webinar, we'll discuss how to set your child up for success when beginning this school year. So why is transition planning important? So ultimately, it's important to help ease the anxiety for both you and your child and creating more predictability. It's to ensure the school is fully aware of your child's support needs and is prepared to make the adaptations and accommodations necessary to set your child up for success. I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns that I hear from parents is they just want to make sure that the school team knows how to best support their child. Provides an opportunity to communicate the strengths and interests of your child so that these are not overlooked. Often by partway through the school year, the teacher usually gets a groove of what the child's likes and dislikes are and where their key interest areas are. And if we can do as much as we can before the school year starts, it'll help make that transition a little bit easier and help prepare the teacher a little bit before the middle of the school year. The sooner the better. So where to start? So as a parent, I would encourage you to make a list of things that have worked well in the past to share with a new teacher. And this can be just point form and write down all maybe its key interests or strengths, favorite activities, friendships that worked really well. Perhaps your child was in a class with a particular student and it went really, really well. Perhaps they sat next to somebody in class and that went well. Perhaps there's somebody that they play really well with outside at recess or at lunchtime. Any of those activities. When we talk about interests and strengths, that can be very helpful when looking at different educational outcomes. Let's look at writing, for instance. If a teacher knows that your child's really interested in a certain topic, they can suggest different writing opportunities for them that might be a little bit more interesting than the typical suggestions that they may have. It's also important to make a note of what you're concerned about. Try to formulate and write down exactly what it is that you are most worried about. Are you worried about a certain time during the day? Are you worried about lunchtime? Are you worried that they don't know your child's support needs? Or whatever it is, write down those concerns to help guide the discussion. write down some of your expectations for your child. So it's important to make sure that we have high expectations, and it's important that we communicate those expectations with the school. Sometimes a student is able to do more at school than they are at home, but often they're doing more at home than they may be at school. So write down exactly what your expectations are in relation to school. And then write down key contacts. So it's important that you know who to reach out to and who you are talking to. If you're reaching out to people at the district, make sure that you write down their key contact information. If you're talking with community partners, social workers, resource teachers, classroom teachers, whoever it may be, write down their name somewhere where you can call upon that easily, and either put their phone number or email, whichever is your preferred method of communication, just so you have everyone in one spot and you know where to turn in case there may be an issue or you need to um, contact them for whatever reason. So before the school year starts, you may have already been asked to attend a meeting at the school. Perhaps it was last spring. Some people have meetings this week right now, but they are a little bit more rare than they are in the spring. So if you are being asked to attend a meeting, think about who else might benefit from attending. So that could be community partners, it might be professionals, it could be maybe a social worker that works really closely with your family, it could be personal support workers that work really closely, anybody who really knows your child well that should be part of that transition meeting. Make sure you write down your thoughts and expectations prior to the meeting. School meetings can be overwhelming and it's easy to forget to mention something. So writing down your key points will ensure you stay on topic and share the information you want while everyone is together. It's really a great opportunity to address your main concerns while everyone is sitting at one table. And then share with the school team some of the expectations you have for your child. This will be helpful when they're putting together the PLP, if your child has one, on what are some of your goals or expectations for your child and how can the school help support in that. And identify some of the supports that your child may need to learn and to be included into their school and or classroom. So this could be that your child uses a special pencil. It may be that they benefit from assistive technology. Maybe they need an environment with limited distractions to do their work. They might benefit from sensory breaks or maybe sitting near the front of the class. Anything that you may know that you could share with the school team would be really helpful. The school, particularly if they're transitioning from one school to the next, will most likely share that information, but it's important that you are on top of it as well, just in case they forget to mention something. So if you already had your meeting and those things weren't addressed, you can kind of think of a few things and maybe contact the teacher with a few things that are really helpful for your child. Or if you're having a meeting this week, you can add those into your meeting. So as a parent, it's important to know what your role is in helping your child transition. So the number one point that I'd like to make is that it's important that you're an active participant in your child's transition and be a team player with the school team. We have more success when we're all playing on the same team than we do when we're playing on different teams. And generally speaking, everyone is all there for the same purpose and reason, and that's to really help support their child. Talk positively about the upcoming school year. Leave the worries and concerns for the adults. You may have some concerns, whether it's with the school or a teacher in particular, but it's really important that you don't put those concerns or worries onto your child and to help address those with the appropriate people. Your child has to spend a lot of time at school, so it's important that they see things positively, and if there's any issues or concerns that you address those with the appropriate people. So other things that you can do, and these are more things that you'll do with your child directly, but visit the school playground throughout the summer. So you may have a child in high school, and even just going around the school grounds, is helpful. Just walking around the school, seeing where things are, where's the entrance, all of those things are really important. If you have a younger child and there is a playground, just to play there, let them be comfortable, familiar with it, so it's not something else to learn when they get to school. Request to do an informal walkthrough or visit the school the week before school starts. So often many students will go in the week before school starts, and I've heard from many parents that they're either scheduled for Wednesday or Thursday this week, and those may be something that a principal or teacher will be doing and walking you through the school, or it might just be something that they'll allow you to go in and just walk through and see where things are to help your child become a little bit more familiar with where the cafeteria is, where classrooms are, where the gym is, etc. So I really encourage you to check out the school's website. So you can find each school website by just typing in the name of the school on the search bar on the internet. And they usually have a lot of really, really helpful information. They usually have the bell schedule, and the bells sound different at different schools, and some students need time to adjust to new bells. So knowing the schedule might help alleviate some of that stress around the sound of the bells. And usually it's written right there on the page. And also about the daily schedule. So some students are looking for predictability in their day. They want to know when their breaks are, what time classes start, what time lunch is, what time will they be getting off. All that information should be right on the website. Some schools now have school video tours. So these are really neat, and they take kind of a tour around a typical day in the school in a kind of a brief snapshot of maybe 3 to 5 minutes on where the say the kindergarten wing is, and then where do you go outside, what does the playground look like, what does a gym look like, those sorts of things. It really does help some students feel more comfortable, and they recognize different places within the school by watching that video. And also see if this school has a breakfast program. Often breakfast programs are used as a social event. It's not just for students who may not have had breakfast at home. There are many students that will go even if they've had breakfast at home just to go in and socialize. Usually there's volunteers there in the morning, and it's a really great opportunity for um, some discussion. We can work on perhaps some language skills, some friendships. It's a really great environment. So check to see if your school has a breakfast program. Most of them do. And then if your child might benefit from going there. And I also encourage you to attend as many back to school activities with your child as you can. So there's often meet the teacher, there's often a welcome back barbecue or event of some sort. And sometimes life does get busy, and we don't feel that it's as beneficial to go, but they really are very important. It's a really good social opportunity for your child. It's a really great social opportunity for yourselves to meet other parents. Just to see how other families are making out, if you have any other questions, and to be present is really, really important. So here are some other strategies to help your child's transition. So pre-plan and practice movements throughout the school on transition visits, and that could be such as going to the washroom. Some students will benefit from just knowing what the environment will look like. Visiting the library, the morning and end of the day routine. That is very important for students to know what happens when I get dropped off in the morning, or what happens when I get off the bus. And then at the end of the day, where am I going? There will be people around to help assist your child, but if they can be more prepared and feel more comfortable with it, it might alleviate some of the stress and anxiety. And then looking at where it's the physical education and music areas, what does the school playground look like? So if you have the opportunity to go in for a tour tomorrow or Thursday, I would encourage you to allow your child to enter into those different environments and experience what it's like to be in them. Discuss unstructured time. So this could be first thing in the morning, depending on what time your student or your child arrives. So it could be first thing in the morning, between classes, lunchtime, after school. What are the expectations for your child, and what are the opportunities for your child? So is there open gym in the morning? Is your child expected to go right out on the playground? Are they allowed to walk through the school? Do they have a specific meeting point? They should go right to perhaps their locker and someone will meet them there. Try to secure those unstructured times, sort of a schedule for the unstructured times so that your child knows what to do and what is appropriate to do during those times. Also discuss transportation. So if your child's taking the bus, find out the bus number. And if you're providing transportation, show your child where drop off and pickup will be. And know that it won't look exactly the same as when you practice it because there'll be many more cars there. So talk to your child that you won't be maybe in a specific parking spot, but you'll be in this area per se. Or perhaps you're going to be walking up to the school, whatever you decide. So one thing that has been very helpful is developing a This Is Me book, video, collage, poster. It could just be a one piece of paper. And this project can help highlight your child's strengths and gifts. So if your child is very artistic, it might be really great to have them do something that showcases their ability in art, or maybe with a collage, or maybe they're really great with technology and a video would be great. This would be really helpful for a new teacher to get to know your child a little bit more quickly than if she was just to have conversations and brief snapshots here and there. You could develop a social story to help your child's transition. So this might be something to help prepare to go to school, or it might be a social story on the specific plan of what's going to happen on the first day of school. Another helpful thing would be to introduce your child to another child who will be attending the same school, particularly if it's a new child, a new school for your child. So if you just moved to a new place, or they're going to kindergarten and didn't have students from preschool attending, try to organize something so your child has at least somebody in mind that who will be maybe on the playground or will be at the school, perhaps taking the same bus as your child. So here, I'm not sure if you can see this with this little box, so I'll move it over. So here is just an example of an All About Me page. So if your child isn't interested in doing a video or a collage or something like this, it might be helpful for you to either have your child complete this or you complete it with them. An All About Me page that you can send in on the first day or at least the first week of school, and they can just highlight some of their key favorite things. And this can be adapted to any age group at all. So what is important? What do you want to showcase to the teacher for the upcoming school year? So here we have favorite toy, favorite food, my favorite things to do. This one here looks more elementary, but you can have basically the same comments, but you can just do it in a Word document or something like that to showcase your child's key interest areas. Here is an example of a schedule, and this is just an example, and it is to help prepare for the back to school, to help your child understand that summer break is ending and it's time to get ready for routine. So, and you can do it if you wanted to have the text box there for your child, you could do something very similar to this, or you could just do it with pictures, whatever works best for you and your child. So just an example, going through that summer vacation was so much fun. I really enjoy being with my family. School starts on September 4th. There are, I believe, 6 days left before we go back to school. I will have a new teacher and he or she knows all about me and I can't wait to meet him or her. I will get to see old friends and make some new ones. I will have a new schedule too. Lunch and recess will be at a new time. That's okay because I am flexible. It is good to get back to school because I get to learn new things and hang out with my friends. So again, this is just an example of a visual schedule. So supporting your child's transition. So some students do benefit from having a transitional item, but make sure that it's appropriate long term. So if you're unfamiliar with a transitional item, maybe if you think back to when your child was a baby, some transitional items might have been a special blanket or a toy or a soother that helped bridge the gap from one activity to another, or one situation to another. So maybe going from home to somebody else's house, it really helped when they had a specific blanket. So some students do benefit from having those at school, but we need to ensure that it's age appropriate long term, because if it sticks, we want to make sure that we don't need to reintroduce something else. So what's appropriate at elementary school doesn't necessarily mean it's appropriate at high school. Some examples of things that could be appropriate long term might be a special pencil case, or special writing tools of some sort, could be a hair accessory, or it might be just a picture of really important people to them. So maybe mom and dad, or maybe their family, taped inside their agenda. So they always can refer back to that picture. But and it's relatively discreet, but long term, it's appropriate right from kindergarten through grade 12. So creating a visual schedule for your child. And that can be to prepare to go to school, or it could be preparing from in the morning. Sometimes it's a very difficult time for many families to get their child out the door in the morning. So setting up a visual schedule for your child to follow from the time they wake up to the time they're out the door for school, a lot of families do find that really helpful. It's important also to establish a communication plan with the classroom teacher. So will the teacher call you every month with an update on how things are going? Will they send home a note in the agenda? If something may arise, will there be a formal form filled out every day? Think about what's important for you to know about your child's day and what's reasonable for the teacher to do. So keep in mind that there are many students in each class, so a detailed note is probably not going to happen. So what is the key information that you require to make sure that your evening goes well? I have an example on the next page that I will share. But before that, I just want to mention that due to privacy laws, educators aren't able to write down any names of students that your child may have played with, for instance, on the playground. So they may say that they played outside, but they can't identify who they played with due to privacy reasons. So here's an example of a communication log, and this wouldn't be appropriate for everyone, but for a student that's not able to communicate well with his parents about what they did day to day, this might be just an example of what may be helpful. So today I went to physical education, art, music, speech, OT, PT. And this way, whoever's filling out the form can easily just circle instead of having to write anything down. Today I worked on reading, math, science, social studies. I could just check off which ones are appropriate. Today I did well with following directions, following my schedule, working independently, and these would all be things that are identified as key learning points for your child. It wouldn't just be a random checklist. And then we have personal information. I ate well. I used the toilet today. I need the following items. So if there's anything that you will be sending to school in advance, this would be a place to check that off. And then today I had a great day, good day, an okay day. If your child is in a position where this kind of communication log is being sent home, it would be really, really great to start having your child be able to identify what kind of day they had and mark it off themselves, so that we're not telling kids how their day was, that we can really kind of listen to how they feel it went. But it would be something maybe to work towards. And then there's a little spot for comments. And again, because of the workload of teachers, they wouldn't be able to write much, but they might just have a word here or there to send home, and then parent initials. So again, this is just one example of a communication log. This isn't appropriate for everyone. Think about the key information that you do require, and how is that information going to be communicated with you? And is there anything from home that should be communicated with the school daily, or is it just something on an as-needed basis? I wanted to also share with you that we have this guide. It's a little book about this size, actually, and it's a parent guide to inclusive education in New Brunswick, and it is a very helpful and useful guide on what is our education system here in New Brunswick, what does inclusive education mean, and what can be your expectations. It's a free resource, and it's available at all of our regional offices. So we have regional offices across the province, and they will be sent there in the upcoming week. I will say that some of the terms in the book are a little bit outdated. In terms of they used to use the word special education plan, and now we use personalized education plan. So those words would be updated in a future book, but the information in this book is very, very valuable. So if you're interested, you could either email me or just stop by one of our regional offices, and within the next couple of weeks, they should be there. So that would be helpful. It is a little book, so you would have to take some time to read it, but I think it would be valuable. All right, so does anyone have any questions who's tuned in live? And if you are listening to the recording, feel free to email me directly. The email on the screen is my email, so education@nbacl.nb.ca, and I'll just wait a minute to see if there's anybody on the line who might have any questions. All right. Well, thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. And sorry, I didn't want to close that just yet. I really appreciate you attending. If you have any questions, please feel free to call or you can email. And we'll have some more webinars up on our website that you can look at throughout the coming year. Thank you.